Hello, everyone. I am so excited you are here because I have someone pretty freaking awesome here today. Her name is Susie Miller. Susie Miller, known internationally as the Better Relationship Coach, is an author, speaker, and coach. She is dedicated to helping you create better relationships in 30 days or less, even if you're the only one who is making the effort. Susie is a best-selling author of Listen, Learn, and Love: How to Dramatically Improve Your Relationships in 30 Days or Less. For over 20 years, she has helped people not settle for mediocre relationships with God, themselves, and others. So, Susie, I'm super stoked that you're here. How are you feeling?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Nichole. I really am excited to chat with you and your listeners because weight loss is something I've wrestled with my whole life. Or weight management or liking
Right.
myself or, all of what you help people with is really something I'm passionate about.
Right. Good. So, Susie and I were talking before this interview, and, relationships is a huge, deep, heavy topic. And even when I talk to my own clients about relationships and stuff like that, it goes in so many different ways, and there are so many different areas to talk about.
Sure.
But I want to really relate to everyone first and foremost. Why I'm talking about relationships is your relationships with not only yourself, but with other people, friends, family, even enemies, absolutely affects how you take care of yourself. Because if you're feeling stress with your husband or with your children or with whomever, you will turn to food, right, to release that stress.
Sure.
And turn on ourselves. And so your relationships have a direct correlation to your health and well-being.
I agree.
And also, trying to lose weight. So I just want to start there, Susie, is, what is your foundational piece that you teach your clients when it comes to relationships?
Okay, so I really focus on how to create better relationships with ourselves, with God, and others, or whatever your faith universe is. Because I feel like when you create a good relationship with yourself, you do have the ability to create better relationships with each other. But it really does, and if you think about it, it's such a stream, it's such a flowing stream from how you feel about yourself. If you have a good self-concept and a good self-esteem, you're going to have better relationships with your spouse, your family, your friends, because you will have a sense of, self-respect. And, we really teach people how to treat us by the way we treat ourselves.
Right.
So it's a huge piece of it. And for me, the bottom line, if I had to pick one thing that I think affects relationship with ourselves more than anything else, it is our self-talk. It's what goes on up here.
Right.
I think that is the biggest positive and the biggest negative that we can do. And here's a great example. I was just doing some pictures for my husband's birthday, and I looked back at some pictures of our family, and I looked great in them, but I thought, I remember feeling fat in that picture and what I would give to look that way now, kind of thing. And I think, you can tell in my face, you can just tell in some of the pictures that I didn't feel good about myself.
Right.
And it wasn't because I didn't look good. It was because I didn't think I looked good. Right. I wasn't saying to myself kind and positive things about myself, and that becomes a debilitating cycle, as you know.
Right. And it's totally an energy, because when clients come to me and they say, oh, well, I'm really nervous about going on vacation because I'm going to have to be in a bathing suit. And it's like, okay, this is not about you being a certain size in the bathing suit. It's about how you want to feel in the bathing suit. And the best way to prove that it's an energy, it's not actually, because we think when we reach size X is when I'll love myself or when I'm beautiful.
Right.
But it is an energy, because we've seen women walk down the street who are not your standard, thin
size.
Woman. Yeah.
Right.
Who is like strutting her stuff and walking, and she's turning heads.
Yep.
Girls are turning their heads like, oh, God.
Look at her. Right.
Yeah, look at her. And then we've seen women who are the standard of thin and beautiful, and their shoulders are down and their head is down. So it's an energy. It's something that
really
you
is.
Embody, for sure.
And I believe it starts with our self-belief, that energy that we not just put off, but what we're putting into ourselves and saying about ourselves. Where like you're right. If I feel good about how I look, I mean, every woman can relate to this no matter what her size is. If you have a good hair day, you just feel good about yourself,
Right.
even if you're not the right size. A good hair day can make or break a woman's day.
Right.
And I look at that and I go, why? Because we say something to ourselves when we are feeling like our hair looks great. And that's not a weight thing. I remember when I struggled a little bit more with it was a little heavier, I would love to go buy shoes because they were the same size. And so I'd have a slamming pair of shoes and my hair would look good. And as long as I was willing to not self-destruct and say ugly things to myself, play that whack-a-mole game, I had a great day and people were drawn to me. And it wasn't because of my size or lack of size. It was because of the energy I put off. But it came from something within.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So, okay. So everyone watching knows like Helga. I don't know if you remember.
Yes,
Helga.
I know Helga.
So
I got
that's
Helga.
a really great place that I teach to start with self-talk. What's
Right.
something that you teach to start having a healthier conversation with yourself?
With my clients that I work with, Nichole, one of the things I ask them to do, I have 2 criteria. And the first that always stops them in their tracks is, would you say what you just said to yourself to your closest friend, to a, person that you just met at the school or at a job? And invariably the answer is no.
Right.
And I kind of go, so then why would you be saying that to yourself? So it's almost like we've now made Helga our best friend. And so it's how do we dismantle her? So that's one thing I ask. And then, a long time ago, one of my good friends said to me, be kind to my friend Susie. And it stopped me in my tracks because I was like, she's right.
When you were talking badly about yourself,
yes.
She kind of pulled the third person out of it and said, hey, be kind. That is awesome.
Yep. She said, be kind to my friend Susie.
Oh,
and it's
so
yeah, isn't that
great?
great? And it made me stop and go, wow, I'm saying things about myself that my friend who loves me is saying are hurtful. And so why am I doing that? And so it began this journey of saying, is what I'm saying to myself kind? Is it helpful? Isn't it productive? A kind word could be, hey, buy the bigger size pants and have them tailored. That's not mean. It's kind because you're going to feel good in how you look.
Right.
So it's not just blowing smoke, because I'm not a big fan of, that Pollyanna, I look great. And that you have some work to do.
Right.
But it's that idea of I can look great and embrace myself where I am if I'm willing to tell myself the truth that I'm fearfully, wonderfully made, that I'm awesome, that, kind of like you said, you see a woman strutting her stuff and she feels good about herself. So I always say to my clients, and women are so hard on ourselves, is what you're saying helpful? Is it kind, or is it productive? And if it doesn't meet that criteria, you have no right to say it to yourself.
Right. And then you can say, zip it, Helga.
Zip it, Helga.
From there.
Yeah,
Awesome.
That's a good one. Yeah. So I really do. That's another thing. A visual is kind of put down the bat. Are you beating yourself up? Are you playing whack-a-mole? And if you're doing that, then put down the bat.
Right.
With the game. So
yeah. Putting your hand on your heart and saying, I deserve to be treated and talked to the way that I treat and talk to other people.
Right. And a big thing for me in my work with coaching people and in some of the seminars I do for women, Nichole, is to really say to them, like I mentioned earlier, we teach people how to treat us. Right. So even if your audience can't embrace I deserve, what they can do is, do I like what I'm putting off? Because I think a lot of times we don't treat ourselves well because we have a messed up deserve level. And coaching women to understand what their deserve level is. So if they can't get that deep, it's kind of that idea of, well, if you don't like how you're treated, you are the only one who can stop that. And so it deals with a very tangible, concrete thing versus deserve level. Because I agree, we deserve to be treated well. But a lot of women, they'll argue and go, but, these are all the reasons I don't deserve it. So that kind of makes you step back and go, what do I want to project?
Right.
What do I want in my relationships? And I better start acting that way.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, so that's good to start healing your relationship with yourself because, as we have made clear, that's really the foundation of all the relationships that you have. You have to work on yourself, and you have to work on loving yourself first and foremost, so then other people can love you too. I heard a really great quote that you were only able to receive that in which you receive yourself, or what was it? You were only able to, it was just this powerful quote that basically was saying,
receive that in which you believe of yourself.
Right. You're only able to feel the level of love that you feel to yourself. And it was a client of mine whose therapist said this to them, and she was a mom. And she said that was so hard for her to hear because the therapist was basically saying that she can only love her son to the depth that she loved herself. And when she really sat with that, she didn't love herself very deeply. And she grappled with it. And that she said that was like so jarring for her because she knew it was true. But I mean, and I think any mom out there, that is definitely something that will really help you start working on self-love, or anybody who is in a relationship with anybody and wants to feel loved on a level that you never knew existed. It's all here.
I have two stories that will really cement that point home. Nichole, if you would like me to share them, I can.
Sure, yeah.
So the first one has to do with being a mom. You know, I was a young mom. I had my kids very young, and my sense of self wasn't real strong, and I was very self-critical. And where that comes out, like what you just said is a big principle, but a really brass tacks way that comes out was I had two girls first and then a boy, but they were always dressed just so. They were always, you know, I had that whole perfection mentality that I literally outlaid onto them. They felt a pressure, even young, because I was so insecure about who I was. And I needed other people to approve of me. And I'll never forget, I had made my girls these cute little dresses, and I led them to my sister, and we met for coffee, and my nieces showed up in them, and they were jumpers, and they had on these, you know, t-shirt undershirts and these pull-on like rain boots. And I looked at my sister and I said, your girls are going to be more well-adjusted than mine because you let them go out that way versus me. They had to have on the patent leather shoes and the ruffly socks. And so for moms, stop and think about, we might not go, oh, I'm not loving my kid, but we might understand, what am I putting on my kids because of my own insecurities about myself? That's a huge piece. I think that really hits home with moms. And then I'll never forget, I was about I was in my 30s. It was late in my 30s. I'd been married to John, my husband. This was in our 15th to 17th year. And I was looking in the mirror, and I remember I was doing that thing that when you're late, putting my makeup on in the car.
Yeah.
And I was putting on mascara, and I looked in the mirror, and I looked at John, and I said, you know, I think I'm kind of pretty. And he looked at me, and he said, you know, I'm so glad you finally said that. For 15 years, I've wished you could see yourself through my eyes. And I think as women, I mean, it touched my heart, but he was right. He'd been telling me I was beautiful for 15 years, but I always had but there's a lump here, but there's this, but I'm not, and we fill in the blank. So what you just said is we can't even receive the love other people give us or give unless we have a good sense of self. And I think self-love is not a selfish thing. It is a foundation for every other thing we do.
Right. Yeah, and you even think about when a woman takes a compliment. Oh, that's such a cute necklace. I love it. Oh, this little thing, I got it for like $2.
Right. Versus thank you.
Right. Who cares if you got it for $2? Who
Right.
cares if you got it for $2? She doesn't even know that.
Or people say, I like your hair. And you'll go, oh, but it's not quite where I want it. You're like, and I look at my clients and go, thank you. You're welcome.
Receive it. Allow yourself to receive that.
You know, and Nichole, it's interesting. I wonder what the belief is for us not to receive. You know, and we are a different generation. You're about my girl's age. I think for some older people, it was this sense of, oh, that's so proud to say thank you.
Right.
Or, you know, darn right I look slamming, you know. And so to get out of that mentality that's really keeping you down and go, thank you. I look great. And I worked hard at it. You know, I joke and go, it takes a lot of body and fender work to look this good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So really embracing the truth and receiving what people say.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, this is so good. And as you guys can see, Susie is so passionate about this. This is why I love her so much. And she does way more than just self relationships, obviously. She does it on all levels. She's also an author as well. So, yeah, tell them a little bit about where they can find you. And I think you're going to give away something pretty sweet to everyone.
I am. You know, one of the things I love to do is help people build better relationships. And one of my thoughts is, there's always one relationship we want to be better, whether it's with ourselves or others. And so you can find me at susiemiller.com. That's SUSIE Miller.com. And that's my hub for my podcast, Better Relationship TV, tons of articles about relationships with yourself and others. And then I do have a freebie for building a better relationship with yourself. And it will be at susiemiller.com/wildly alive. Because I really love what you're doing, Nichole. I actually recently had a client that I told to go buy some new clothes so you feel good about them, about yourself, your technique that you use.
Right.
And I really think that it is so important. So susiemiller.com and then /wildly alive.
Yeah, and I'll put all the links below. So
Terrific. Yeah, and there's lots of freebies on my website, but this will be a special one for your audience as well.
Right. Yeah, with some actionable, tangible things that maybe you could get started with.
Yes. And there's a link to my book on the website as well. It was a bestseller on Amazon, and it's about improving any relationship in 30 days or less. So there's lots there for your listeners. And yeah, I am passionate about relationships. You're right.
You can feel it. I love it. That's how I am too. When people interview me, I'm like, like I'm just like, it's like exuding out of me. So I can feel that, and it's it's awesome, and it validates your work so much.
Thank you.
You can't fake
Well,
passion.
for me, one thing, and I will say this to your audience, one thing that really mattered to me raising daughters was I didn't want them to wrestle with what I wrestled with. I didn't want them to hear me talk about how I felt and being fat, and I wanted to have good body images. And I think as women and moms of daughters, we have to be really aware of that.
Right.
Of what we're saying about ourselves because our kiddo's here.
Right. Absolutely. For sure. All right, guys, well, go check out Susie. All the links are below, and thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. This is a great time, and I'll forward it on to my folks too.
Awesome. All right. Bye.
Bye.